Vancouver. This is the first day of our 2-week trip around Canada, well, British Columbia. We're spending just the day here in Vancouver before we head over to Victoria. It's kind of a laid-back place. Kind of like it. Reminds me of Auckland in New Zealand. Vancouver lies in a region of more than 2 million people. It's the largest city in British Columbia and the third largest city in Canada. Surrounded by water on 3 sides and overlooked by mountains, its climate is one of the mildest in Canada. Vancouver is a city that routinely tops international surveys of one of the best places to live. However, despite a laid-back vibe, Vancouverians love to underestimate the qualities of their region. While visiting Vancouver, you can't miss a walk through Stanley Park. It's one of North America's largest urban parks. It's a great place to stroll, jog, or cycle, and there's a good selection of totem poles to photograph. Vancouver's neighbourhoods are easily accessible, and one of the neighbourhoods we wanted to go and see was Gastown. Gastown is named after Gassy Jack Dayton. He got this name because he had a habit of spinning tall tales. And one September day, he stepped ashore with a barrel of whiskey, telling the mill workers that if they'd build him a saloon, he'd serve them drinks. But a stop in Gastown isn't without seeing and hearing the steam clock. But if you want to know one of the city's best kept secrets, the steam clock isn't actually powered by steam, it's powered by electricity. One of the places near the top of Canada's list of travellers' destinations is Vancouver Island, and that's our next stop.
We're halfway through our trip right now from Vancouver to Victoria. First leg was a bus, now we're on the boat for about an hour and a half, and then we get off this and then it's another boat and another bus into the city.
Victoria is Western Canada's oldest city. The city began in 1843 as a Hudson Bay trading post, named in honour of Queen Victoria. Victoria is also British Columbia's stately province capital. It lies at the southeastern end of Vancouver Island and enjoys a mild climate. It's probably one of the most English of the Canadian cities. We enjoyed walking the artisans' market, checking out everything from pottery to painting to all sorts of other knickknacks. Also worth a look is Thunderbird Park. This is right next door to the museum, and it's one of Victoria's most popular landmarks. But our visit to Victoria wasn't complete without a tour of the Parliament buildings. If you're enthusiastic enough, you can actually sit around and watch debates in the provincial legislature. However, we were not that enthusiastic. Instead, we made our way around to Fisherman's Wharf for some nice fish and chips. While at Fisherman's Wharf, we met this sea lion, who was also making the most of the fish and chips. And I must recommend this place. If you stop here, it's pretty good. Well, we made it to Victoria. It's a really neat little city that's really colourful. Got a lot of history. Had a look around the Parliament buildings and had some fantastic fish and chips for lunch. But now we're going to decide what we're going to do for this afternoon. Probably going to do a little bit of hiking, so we're either going to head south or going to head north and inland to Tofino. So, see you there. Well, near Tofino is Pacific Rim National Park. And there we had decided to do a one-day hike along the West Coast Trail.
We're at Pachena Point Lighthouse. It's about 10 kilometres into the West Coast Trail, which is supposed to be one of the hardest, most famous trails in North America. So far it's pretty easy, but I'm sure the next few days are tougher. Unfortunately, we're just doing the one-day version.
Despite the many lighthouses along Vancouver Island, there still has been some horrific maritime accidents. And so the West Coast Trail was constructed as an escape route for shipwreck survivors. Today, if you're keen enough, you can walk the trail. It's open from May the 1st to September the 30th. It takes between 5 and 7 days. Or, if you're just like us, you can just do a one-day hike from either end. The trail itself passes through virgin spruce, cedar and hemlock forest. It'll stretch across deserted beaches, punctuated by clear tidal pools. There are designated campsites all the way along, and there you can find all the modern amenities.
It's quite nice in there. There's all sorts of whiskey bottles and stuff like that. This is one of the many catwalks that we have to go down and ladders and all that stuff.
The West Coast Trail is one of North America's best known and toughest hiking routes. You'll most likely plough through knee-deep mud, climb hundreds of rocky steps, cross streams, and of course, scale ladders.
Brutal climb on the most arduous hike in all of North America.
Well, it's been a fun hike. A little tough in places, but fun nonetheless, especially all these ladder climbs. And I won't mind one bit when we get back to the car and get something to eat. 'Cause I'm kind of hungry. 12 k's, mate. I'm done.
Not far from Tofino is the small town of Ucluelet. And besides some of its unusual locals who we got to meet firsthand, there's a great trail you can do. It's called the Wild Pacific Trail, and it winds its way through rainforest and along wild coastline. It's not uncommon to see bald eagles here, as this piece of coastline provides great fishing and has the ideal breeding habitat. Now heading back across to the eastern side of Vancouver Island, we decided to stop at McMillan Provincial Park. There you'll find Cathedral Cove.
We're at Cathedral Cove right now, which is got trees, Douglas firs that are 800 years old. Most of them are around 300 though, due to a fire, and the fire actually helped the population, and they outgrow all the other trees that are here.
The rainforest has a network of walking trails, weaving in amongst the moss-covered fallen trees. And the park covers over 157 hectares.
Pretty cool walking among these trees, absolutely huge. Remind me of the karri trees back home in New Zealand. Massive.
Driving further north up the island, we make our way to Port McNeill, and from there we take the ferry across to Alert Bay. Alert Bay is historically significant. It's the oldest community in North Vancouver Island, and it's well known as the centre of the powerful resurgence of the native culture. The island's population is that of 580, and it's home to the First Nations community. On the north end of the bay is the Umista Cultural Centre. It contains an impressive collection of masks and other potlatch items originally confiscated by the federal government in the 1920s. Potlatching was made illegal in Canada in 1884 and in the United States in the late 19th century, largely at the urging of missionaries and government agents who considered it a worse than useless custom. The potlatch ceremony marked important occasions such as births, marriages, deaths, and the transfer of names. In 1921, 45 people were charged with taking part of a potlatch in the village island. Ceremonial regalia, including coppers, masks, rattles, and whistles, were confiscated and distributed amongst the museums and private collections throughout North America. The mandate of the Umista is to repatriate these artifacts. To date, they have seen considerable success, although their efforts are ongoing. Much of the repatriated collection is now on display at the Cultural Centre.